Good morning, everybody. Welcome to class this morning. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're getting ready for the Thanksgiving holiday. I realize we probably don't have quite as many people on the live stream today because everybody's getting ready for the Thanksgiving holiday, which is tomorrow. But school's still in session here at Cleveland Community College, at least today. We'll be leaving at the end of the day today for the Thanksgiving holiday. So the college will be closed tomorrow and Friday for the Thanksgiving holiday. Which does bring up a few interesting announcements here that we need to discuss at the start of class today. One of the things is that you probably got the email either yesterday or the day before. I can't quite remember when it went out, about certain staff members going off campus, going virtual for the remainder of the semester to try to mitigate the number of people on campus as we close out the semester this year. And one of those is student affairs. And that would be your advisors, the people who are registering you for courses. They are going virtual starting when we return to college after we get back from break, so next Monday. They'll only be available for virtual appointments. So if you need to see these people face to face, you need to try to get by today. Which I know that's kind of a little bit of a last-minute announcement there, but it is what it is, because they are going virtual once we return from Thanksgiving break. We're trying to cut down on the number of people who are on campus as the semester draws to a close. Try to keep the numbers low to try to mitigate, the global situation that we're in here. So that's one of the ways that the college is handling that. There are some universities that are, going completely virtual after Thanksgiving break, but we'll still be having classes and such on campus. So I'll still be here on campus if you need to come by and see me. I'll still be hanging out. Really, none of my stuff will have changed. You'll still be able to contact me via Teams or, in my office during my office hours, just like normal. So as far as getting in touch with me for the end of the semester, nothing's really different. But getting in touch with your advisors is going to be a little bit different, although with you all being online students, I don't know that that's necessarily a problem for you all. I just thought I'd bring it up as we started the class today, just so you know. You should be, make sure you're checking those emails, because you never know what's going to be sent out, what kind of crazy information you're going to be getting. That's definitely on that list. Another thing is to make sure that you are registered for classes for spring. Sign up for what you need. Sign up today. Sign up as soon as possible. I know some of you out there, I know that you wait until the last minute. But you're probably discovering, this past semester and the semester before, it's that things are starting to change a little bit. If numbers are a little low a week or two before classes are starting, now they're canceling these classes. So if you want to make sure that you get the class that you need for spring, you want to go ahead and sign up for that class right now and register for that class right now so you can get the classes that you need. And I know that, this is CTS 217. This is an upper level class. So a lot of you are probably getting ready to graduate in the spring. So if you are getting ready to graduate in the spring, you want to make sure that you're getting the classes that you need in the spring so that you can graduate. So you want to try to get what you need right now. So that you can get that degree, get that diploma, get that certificate, whatever you're working toward. Come spring, right, when we've got all that checked off, one more announcement, because I've already seen one person kind of do it. When it comes to the last couple of modules here, if you want to work ahead, it doesn't bother me. Like everything is kind of paced out. But especially here at the end of the semester, when you've got other stuff going on, and we still got this huge final project that's looming for the course. If you've got some extra time, like maybe like on Friday, you want to kind of break away from the family and but you don't really have much else to do. Maybe you want to work in the next module or the next module and knock out some of this other stuff that we've got going on. If you want to go ahead and work ahead, it's fine with me. We've only got we only got a couple more weeks left in the semester. Classes officially end on December the 11th. Today is November the 25th. So that is, what would that be? 16 more days of classes. 16 more days until classes end. 30 days in November and then 11 days in September. So that's five more days in this month and then 11 days in next month. So that's 16 more full days of classes. And I'm sure you all have, other classes that have stuff that need to be done. Plus, we've got this big project looming in here, and we've got all this other stuff that has to be done. So if you have some extra time and you want to go ahead and work ahead, it's cool with me. Right? Just know that I might not grade it until everything else from that module comes in. I might go ahead and grade it just depending on the time that I have. But it might wait until the other stuff from that module comes in, that module due date passes. Because remember, that's what we agreed to at the start of the semester. I said I'd get everything graded and back to you within 7 days of the due date for that assignment. Not within 7 days when you turned it in, but within 7 days of the due date. So that's what we agreed to. So that's what we've got going on there. So if you want to go ahead and work ahead, I think one of you are, I think one person already has done some stuff. Fine by me. I would hope you'd want to work ahead for this week anyway, because, you could go ahead and get some stuff done by end of day today, right? And then just have the rest of your break to just kind of chill. That's what I'm trying to do, right? Is I'm trying to get all of my grading, get everything that I would normally do on Thursday or Friday. I'm trying to get that done before I leave today so I can enjoy the rest of my week. Although I will still be available if you guys are having any issues. Just note that it might take me a little longer because, it is a nice holiday weekend. And I do hope that you all enjoy your holiday weekend that we have this week. I should take some time and say that to you all. It's been a long semester. It's been a long year, right? It's been a long year for us all. And so I think taking just a few minutes to just rest and relax and just take some days, right? Just to kind of get your head back together before we get into the rush of this last couple weeks. It's probably needed, So I hope that you're all able to have a restful, relaxing, safe holiday over the next couple days. Well, that's a few more announcements than I normally like to do. We just took up 10 minutes with announcements. That's pretty wild. And this is one of the modules that I like to talk about more, too. It's the Technology Training for Users module. Because it is some stuff that we don't normally get into a lot in the IT department. It's one of the sort of outliers here that we don't talk about as much. Because it is something that you will or you might be asked to do. if you're put in a help desk role, is train people. We've kind of talked about it in the past, how training and education is a part of the tech support process. Right? It's not enough that we just fix something, but we also have to leave our user with enough information that they know what happened and try to prevent it from happening again. Because, if there's a recurring issue that happens over and over and over again that could be helped to be fixed by just a little bit of education on the part of that end user, then that's going to cut down on a whole lot of frustration, right? So what we want to do is we want to be able to teach. We want to be able to train. And oftentimes what this means is, for the majority, just being able to do one-on-one type of instruction. Somebody comes to me with a problem, I fix the problem, and I say, well, this happened because of this, but if you're able to do this, 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 and this, and then maybe show them the steps or walk them through the steps as they do it, then there's a fix. Then they've learned something. But there are occasions when you, as a help desk support agent, or just a IT person in general, might be asked to do a little bit more in conducting a training. And we kind of talk about this in this way, right? We kind of talk about this in this order because we kind of build up to this. Because really, it's like the last few modules are things that are supported by this. If I write a technical document, then I need to be able to walk somebody through that technical document. Like, technology training is an extension of technical writing. If I select new technology, new devices for users and install that equipment, I need to be able to train them on how to use it. Because it's not just enough that I've determined the needs of my users and then in turn selected the right equipment for them. Because if I've done that and gotten them the best equipment, the thing that perfectly suits their needs, and I sit it down in front of them and they have no idea how to use it, what good have I actually done? Right? So we move from that stuff into this idea of technology training. And one of the big things I think that we have to talk about to start this off is what exactly is training and how training differs from what we're doing right now in terms of what education is. So what is the difference between training and education? So when we talk about training, a training is a teaching and learning process that aims to build skills that are immediately useful to trainees. The key word here being immediately useful. Right? So I teach somebody a skill and then they're immediately able to go out and perform this skill. Right? So like you can think about it as like, like you're in your networking class and you learn how to make a cable. That is training. You make this Ethernet cable. That is training. Because based on what you've learned there, that skill, you can immediately take that out and do something with it. Now, the skills that you learn from a training, they might be long-term. They might be something that you use over and over and over again forever. Like making that cable, right? Like if you get into a networking field, it's quite possible that you're going to be making custom length cables on every job that you do every single time. But it could just be that it's a task that you only perform once or twice. Right? Like here at the college, when you think about it, we submit grades at the end of the semester. So we submit grades twice a year. So there's a process for submitting grades, so they could have a training about how to submit these grades. And I do it twice in a given year. And maybe that's the process for doing it for the next 1, 2, 3, 4 years. But then maybe a better, newer software comes along and something changes. And now the process for submitting grades is different. So even though I've only done it maybe 6, 7, 8 times total, that doesn't change it from being what it was as immediately useful. Because I needed to know how to submit those grades. So when we're talking about training, we're talking about something that the user can go out and do right then. An appreciable skill. How is that different from education? What is that different from what we're talking about in terms of education? Because I consider this class to be more of an educational class instead of a training-based class. Some of the classes that you have here at the community college, they're more training, and some of them are more educational. That's kind of the nature of a community college. So what's the difference between education and training? Education provides conceptual understanding and builds long-term thinking skills. So in this instance, we're not just talking about how do you put together, how do you make an Ethernet cable, right? This is more than just make an Ethernet cable. This gets into conceptual understanding. If we were looking at this in terms of networking again, we could start thinking about like the OSI model and the different layers of the OSI model and how the packets are shaped and formed. Or if we think about it in programming, which is something that's more near and dear to my heart, instead of thinking about, we can put it in context with training would be more like syntax, right? Like I can show you how to write Python. But education would be more conceptual understanding of like data structures. What is a loop, and when would you use a loop? What is a conditional, and when would you use a conditional? Versus how do you write a conditional in this particular language? What we want to do is we want to build this vocabulary. We want you to have this understanding of these general principles, so that when you are in this field, regardless of the specifics surrounding a particular area that you might be in, you have this foundational understanding of the concepts that are related. So you can talk to people that are in the field. You have a knowledge of the vocabulary. You have an understanding of the general principles. And these are for long-lasting effects. This is for synthesis. And that's where the whole idea of, a lot of times, not always, but you have this idea of like, well, the teacher didn't teach me this on the final, project or the final exam. And sometimes, and not always, but sometimes it is the case where they actually did. I think about some of the things that I do in some of my programming classes, where it's like we learn concept A and we learn concept B. And then I say, make me C, as this assessment of whether or not you actually gained some understanding, whether or not you got this education. Right? And on the surface, when you look at C, it's like we didn't learn how to do this. We didn't get the training to do this. We were not shown this immediate skill. But we were taught to have this conceptual understanding of A and B. And if we break down the problem C and we synthesize what we've learned, we can take the problem C and we can see that if we take A and B and put them together, that gives us C. And that's the difference between education and training. One is our immediately useful skill, something that we can go out and do right now. The other is a learning of how to learn. A long-lasting effect that's built on a foundation of general principles and knowledge. Long-term thinking skills. Now, education is great, and it's great for you guys. Because that's what you're going to need when you get out into the field, is you're going to need to be able to think through problems and solve problems. But for our users, they don't want to have to synthesize and reason through their own problems. That's what you're for. They want to be trained on the solution. So that's where we're at here. This is for you. The education is for you so that you can build the training for them. So what are our characteristics of a training? One is that we're going to focus on performing activities and building expertise. Right? We want them to walk out being able to do what they need to do. And it's evaluated by measuring the trainee's ability to do what they need to do, to perform that specific task. So it's all revolving around that task. So at the center of this, we have this task. And we've kind of talked about this before. We've talked about the chasms in different contexts, right? And we have another chasm here. This is another chasm that we're dealing with, where we have a problem state and we have a goal state. Here we have our user. And here we have this skill. Our user needs to be able to do this skill. So this skill is our focus. What we need here is we need a direct line from our user to bridge to the skill. And that's our training. Now, in other cases, when we've looked at problem-solving methods, we've looked at kind of alternate problem-solving methods, and we've discussed alternate problem-solving methods, and we've talked about, how we can kind of get to different places via different methods. We kind of drew the similar diagram here, and we talked about, we can get across by the bridge, or we can get across by the boat, and, one of them might be a more efficient method, but the other one will still get us there. And in this case, what we want is we just want the bridge. We don't want the boat. We don't want the rope swing. We don't want, any of this other stuff. We want the bridge. We want the trainee to be able to walk out of the training with expertise in that skill, and that training could just be an hour long. That could be all we have. So we need to be efficient and effective. There are those E words again. We see this stuff over and over and over again. Like, I can't reiterate it enough. Doing things right and doing the right things. And these skills, as we've kind of mentioned before already, they could be long-term. They could be stuff that the users have to do over and over and over and over again for the remainder of their career, or even the remainder of their lives, in with certain technologies. Or short-term, something that they might only have to do once or twice before something new comes along. Now, how can we develop an end-user training in a smart manner? For that, we have a process. And that is our 4 Ps of end-user training. Plan the training, prepare the training, present the training, and progress toward higher quality user training. Now, I've got slides that go into depth on all of these, but I'm not gonna show you. I'm not gonna show them to you because we really don't need them. Not for our purposes right now. I'm just going to talk about them all right here. The first one is to plan the training, and that's to gather information about the training objectives. Okay? And so these are our training objectives. So what are objectives? What are objectives? At the beginning of each module in this class, we have objectives, and those objectives are things that I expect that by the end of the module, I would expect for you to learn, or I would expect for you to be able to do. So when we're thinking about training, and training being a particular skill, being toward a particular skill, our objectives in this instance will be geared toward whatever that particular skill is. So we want to gather information about our training objectives. What is the skill that we want, the skill or skills, I guess we should say, that we want our users to be able to walk out knowing how to do? And from there, we can prepare the training. We can gather materials and develop materials if we need to. There's a lot of learning resources out there that you can draw from already if they already exist for you. There's no need to reinvent the wheel if stuff already exists. If it doesn't already exist, you might have to make it yourself. But then one of the things that that you might want to do is to organize the material into modules. In education, we call this chunking. Being able to take material and to kind of divide it up into bite-sized pieces so that your users aren't overwhelmed. Right? And it's what we do in class. Right? Like this is really, at the core of this is really basic educational theory. Right? So it all kind of just gets back to how people learn and how we teach. So we organize materials into modules. We call, again, we call that chunking. We could take everything and we could just put it into one big section. Right? But that's too much material in one thing. That's going to overwhelm people. You don't want to do that. You don't want to overwhelm your user. You want them to leave learning what they need to learn. So you break it up into bite-sized chunks. You break it up into weeks or, different trainings or whatever you do. Then you present the training and deliver these training modules that you've developed. And these could be interactive. These could be, lectures. By and large for trainings, you want them to be interactive. You want them, you want the users to be doing something. Because really, if you're going to progress, which is the last one, you want to see that your users are able to actually do the skill that you want them to be able to do. So we want to evaluate and improve the training via progressing toward higher quality user training, progress being the fourth P. And so one of the ways that we do that is we survey our users to see if they think that they learned what they needed to learn out of the course or out of the training. And that's some of the material that we have in this module, and that's one of the things that you're asked to do, is to create one of these evaluative surveys. And this information is valuable to us. Because really, whether or not the user learned the material, one of the things that is important is the user's confidence in how they feel about the material that they've learned. If I've done a good job in learning the material and I feel confident in learning the material, if I feel confident that I'm able to take the skills that I've learned here and go out to my workplace or wherever and perform those skills, then I do have a higher chance of actually succeeding than not. Even if I've actually learned the skills, if I don't feel confident about it, my retention in that might go down a little bit. And so, education is never really perfect. We're all human, we're all flawed, and every group of people is going to be a little bit different. And so as we deliver a training or as we deliver education, really, each class is going to be just a little bit different than the one before it. And the instructor is going to learn something different from each class about how to present the information that they're trying to present to their users or their learners or their students. So even when you think you're done here, you're not really done, because you have this idea of progression and getting to the next step and progressing to the next level in order to try to figure out what you need to do and how to make things better. And it might take you one time of presenting the training. It might take you 2 times of presenting the training. It might take you 20 times of presenting the training to get it to a place where you feel really, 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 really comfortable with how you present that training. Like, nothing's ever going to be 100% perfect. That kind of goes back to our, our customer service goal, 100% satisfaction 100% of the time. Like, nothing's ever going to be 100% perfect. We're never going to present a 100% perfect training, but we can try. That can be a goal. And so when we think about this stuff and we think about preparing this training, we have this process here. That we can go through. Plan, prepare, present, progress. And really, it's how we should approach training. And so I want to put this evaluation form screen up here just so you can have a little bit of information, because as you create your own evaluation forms for your hypothetical trainings and the trainings that you do going forward, it is a vehicle to obtain your trainees' perspectives on strengths and areas that need improvement in training sessions. And I do have some sample questions here that you might want to utilize. And one of the links that we have in the course there to some more information talks about balancing open-ended versus closed-ended questions and all this kind of stuff, in terms of writing a good evaluation form. But we have here some sample questions like, were the training objectives clear? And that's an important one. Like, if I go into a training and I'm told some objectives, that I should be able to know or be able to do these things by the end of this training, then that's what I'm going to expect. You know, when we enter into anything, we enter into them with some expectations. And so insofar as all that goes, you know, our preconceived notions might be shattered by actual objectives. You know, like what you think about a class based on its title might change wildly once you get into the class based on its objectives. But if the class meets all of its objectives versus whether the class doesn't meet all of its objectives, or if those objectives are clear or not, then that's a totally different thing, and that's an important thing that we want to consider. So were the training objectives clear? That's a big one. Were the terms used in the training section defined? You know, that's especially important, right? If you're entering into something new, if you're learning new topics, it's highly likely that you don't know every term that's being used. So if it's important to the context of what's being learned and you don't know what the word means, it's a reasonable expectation that somebody tell you. Was the training session well organized? Was the pace of the training too fast or too slow? Were the training aids useful? These are all things that can help us progress, can help us make this better. And it is kind of tough to kind of think about that, because really when you're making it better, you can't really make it better for yourself. So in a way, you know, as a student filling out one of these evaluation forms, you're a little bit altruistic, right? Because you're not making things better for you necessarily, because you've already been through the training. You're making things better for the next students that are going through the training. But really, if you can make things better for the next people going through the training, and that has a wider rippling effect on the elements that have been learned and what's done with them, then it could have a greater effect on things at large. So that's a benefit, a net gain, which is wonderful. So with that being said, you know, I tried to push it. I went a little over our normal time today, but I did have extra announcements at the beginning, so that's what accounts for all of that. Once again, I hope you have a good holiday. If you have any questions about any of the module information, let me know. Again, I might be a little slower to reply over the holiday weekend, but I will do my best to get to you as quickly as possible. And again, if you want to start to work ahead, fine by me. No issues there. But as always, thank you for watching. And we will see you next time for what I believe will be the final. I think next time might be the final live stream of the semester. Come to think of it, we've already gotten that far. Wow. Thank you for watching, and we will see you next time.